You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network, the home of the Options Podcast. For more quality options programs, visit theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app available in the iTunes and Google Play stores. Select programs are also available via live stream at mixlr.com/options-insider. That's mixlr.com/options-insider. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, stocktwits.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions at theoptionsinsider.com. The futures markets can be downright scary. Limit up, limit down. What the heck is RBOB anyway? Are they going to dump a truckload of soybeans on your front lawn if you click the wrong button? Come to think of it, maybe you should just stick to your comfort zone. Or you can break out of it with the Futures Rundown. The Futures Rundown is here to help you make sense of these scary markets. We'll analyze all the top futures trading activity, explore the ins and outs of your favorite products, explain exactly how futures work, and hear from leading experts in the futures markets. We'll even tackle all of your wildest futures trading questions. If it involves futures, then you'll hear about it on the Futures Rundown. And now, it's time to break into the futures markets. It's time for the Futures Rundown.
All right, everybody. That music means we are back. It is Wednesday. Time to talk some futures. Yes, it is time once again for the Futures Rundown. My name, of course, Mark Longo from theoptionsinsider.com, as well as from the network upon which all of you folks have been binging. The network that continues to grow. This, to me, is the new show of the network, but this launched 6 to 8 months ago now. We've added 2 new shows since this one, so it's been a wild time on the network. Make sure wherever you're listening to this, you're subscribed to the full network. And of course, if you want to go above and beyond, if you're ready for even more great stuff, theoptionsinsider.com/pro. Congrats to our pro member here, Mr. Unlimited, who won the July Pro Trading Crate. Get your name in the hat for August, get exclusive shows, get live streams, all sorts of fun. Theoptionsinsider.com/pro is the place to go to learn more. As we learn who's joining us on the old Futures Rundown program this week, I'm pleased to welcome on a first-timer on this program, even though he has been on the network once before, across the pond on the European Market Brief, as we are joined by Mr. Nick Cassano, the Director of Trading and Risk Management over there at Tradier. Nick, welcome to the Futures Rundown program.
Thanks, Mark. Super excited to be here. I always enjoy coming on and chatting markets with you, so thanks for having me.
I mentioned you were on the European Market Brief, a new show, a little bit different audience, so really quickly for all the listeners of this show, give them a quick overview of your background as well as what it is you do at Tradier.
Yes, sir. So I'm a former pit trader. I made markets at the CBOE for about 13 years. I transitioned to the retail brokerage side, and currently I run trading and risk management for Tradier, which is a brokerage as well as a futures broker. And just trying to bring good products to life, helping folks, make the most of their trading experience and take control back of their finances.
All right, let's take some control here on the show, listeners, as we bravely venture into the trading pit.
It's time to break down all the action that's lighting up the futures markets this week. What's limit up and what's crashing and burning? Let's find out. It's time to enter the trading pit.
All right, everybody, welcome to the trading pit. No live show last week, but we didn't leave you hanging. Had some great fun with our good buddy Dan Gramza, talking all things 10-year notes. If you ever had any questions about just what the heck is the 10-year note and why is it so freaking popular? Well, hopefully that show answered some, if not all of your questions, but we're back live and ready to dive into the pits. And Nick, I have some movers and shakers to get to here, but before we dive into all of that, It's another wild week out there in the markets. We have had CPI driving things haywire this week. All sorts of fun going on in the markets. What's catching your eye in the world of futures this week, sir?
Well, I'd be remiss not to, and I hope I don't spoil your up mover here, but I would be remiss not to mention ETH and the crazy move.
Oh, is something happening in Ether? I must have missed it. Let me rerun my numbers.
We've seen this week. There's a rumor that it might be up 50% over the past month. It's up another 4% today. Last I looked, and it has been hot, man.
If there's a story of the year in future, certainly on this show, I think it might be Ether. And again, not to spoil it, we'll get to it in a second, but it's been so wild. The first half of this year was such a dumpster fire for the ETH folks. I mean, last year we saw a good performance on a lot of the major crypto assets. ETH did all right, but it lagged behind Solana and Bitcoin. And a lot of the ETH heads were coming into this year and they were saying, okay, this is the year. This is the year where ETH outperforms the other two, and it kind of lives up to the hype. It lives up to what we were expecting from this one forever. And what happened? It sold off nearly 50%. It was an apocalyptic. I mean, it was threatening to break 1,000 in the wrong direction. It just seemed like ETH was kind of stick a fork in it. It was done. No one was coming on our crypto show anymore and wanting to talk about ETH. It was Solana. It was everything else. ETH was yesterday's news. And to see this resurgence is absolutely wild, absolutely mind-blowing. Let's just get to it, listeners. Nick spoiled the whole show, but we'll do it anyway because it's fun. To the upside we go this week, listeners. Can you take a guess what's lighting up the upside? Yeah, there's a little bit of ETH there. Well, we'll kick it off. Number 5, it's soybeans, listeners, up a little over 6, about 6.15% on the week this week. Number 4, we've got our old pal coffee. So if you're hoping for a little bit of a reprieve in your Starbucks cup this week, not the case. Coffee up 9.17%. Right above it, we have cocoa, number 3, 9.2%. A lot of issues with those trees, it seems like, down there in Africa, and that's causing a lot of problems and a lot of upside in the price. Number 2, listeners, is one of the EMs. Can you guess which ones? No, it's not uranium. It's lithium, up 20.12% this week. So a wild week on the lithium front. And then number 1, a combo. Again, we kind of let the cat out of the bag there. It is ETH. The futures, both the micro and the big futures over there at CME, up about 28.8% this week. Nick, do you guys have a lot of ETH traders over there at Tradier? Is this a hot topic for you folks? And anything else in our upside top 5 this week catching your eye, sir?
Yeah, so we have seen a migration, if you will, rotating of assets to the micro Bitcoin future, the micro ETH future, as well as we're actually starting to see customers dabble in the Solana and XRP futures. Those are still out, listener beware, those are still building a liquidity base. We're still, they're not as liquid as the other two I mentioned, but we are seeing folks start to trade those. I mean, Solana's up significantly recently as well. So it's, it's holding on to ETH and following tight. The soybean, we have seen people trading some soybeans. It's kind of interesting. Beans feel like they've kind of been in like a 60-cent range for, I don't know, months. But conversely, like corn, wheat, those other grains have kind of been, trending downwards. So, it's interesting to see that a resurgence in beans this week, while the other two kind of continue to not do much. So that's, so definitely seeing folks start trading, to answer your question, definitely seeing folks starting to trade micro ETH more than they were in the past.
Yeah, spoiler alert. We might even hear micro ETH on our most active list in a little bit, listeners. It's just
I'm ruining everything.
Absolutely wild week. Yeah, I never thought I would say that here on the show. These are rare times we're all living in here. Let's go to the downside now for this week, listeners. What's lighting up our screens to the red? If you're heavily short, you're very happy. Let's kick it off. We're going to do a bottom 6 here, actually, because we've got VIX in here. And you know me, whenever we throw VIX in, it's like saying which way is the wind blowing, where the VIX futures are right now. Give it 2 minutes and they'll be somewhere else entirely. Nonetheless, they're on our list this week to the downside. Let's go to a number 6/5. It's our old pal WTI/crude oil coming down nearly 3%, about 2.86% this week. Number 4, we're going out to steel. U.S. Midwest steel off 3.4%. Then our old pal, the VIX, slotting in there at number effectively 3, or number 4 really in this list. It is off nearly 6%, but again, percent of a percent. I know how you vol heads feel about that. And then coming in at number 3, we got our old pal going out to dairy. It's cash settled butter off 6.9%. So your coffee might be more expensive and your cocoa, but you're getting a break on butter. So there you go. You win some and you lose some. Number 2, nat gas. Cost you less to heat up that butter and that cocoa and that coffee, off 8.09% this week. And the big dog to the downside, dead trees getting a little bit of downside this week. Lumber off 9.18%. So an interesting week. Anything catching your eye in our downside list, Mr. Nick?
So, the prototypical Tradier customer is generally short vol. So, our customers love when the VIX comes in.
It's a good week for them, yes.
Yeah, I will say I stupidly was a little long VIX this week, but I think I'm learning my lesson. I thought that I felt like there's a little bit of uncertainty with the tariffs 2.9 or whatever iteration of tariffs we're in. But what I think I've come to the realization is that these markets are like, remember like back in the day, it'd be like, oh, if you have a Republican Congress and a Democratic president, then that's good for the markets because they'll never accomplish anything. And I think the markets are kind of just like realizing that like, the bold statements that are made are never really going to come to fruition. And it's just like all systems go, risk on for the time being until it's proven that like what we're talking about actually comes to fruition. So
we were reminded how quickly vol can die again this week. Yes. Which again, given the environment we're in, I don't fault you for having a little bit of upside in your back pocket these days. One single tweet and we could be back into a 20 handle and above in VIX very easily. So I could see maybe leaning short and then sprinkling a little bit of upside in your back pocket in case something wild comes to pass. We just did a poll of our audience on Monday on our Option Block show. We saw 30,000 of the 25 calls expiring next Wednesday, so the 20th, going up in VIX for 25 cents, so not cheap. And we said, do you want to buy them or sell them? 60% of the audience wanted to buy them with a little over a week to go for a 25 handle in VIX. So you're not alone. People are out there buying VIX. Unfortunately, it's just not working out right now. Let's keep rolling out to the most actives, listeners. And I kind of gave you a spoiler for number 10. We've been doing the show. This is a newer show, Mr. Nick, so it's like 6+ months old. But we have yet to mention Ether in any capacity on the volume side on this show. But we are making up for lost time today. Now, this is a micro, listener, so take it with a grain of salt. But nonetheless, number 10 this week, the micro Ether future at CME. How wild is that to say out loud, Nick? Expiring in August. It's also the only August expiration on our top 10 today. 269,000 contracts. Again, we usually look at Ether from the options side on the shows we do, like This Week in Futures Options, and it's always been a struggle to get any paper, but it's been a similar struggle on the future side. So to see the Ether micro on this list, Nick, this is just wild stuff for me. What do you think?
Yeah, no, and I actually saw an article, I think it was maybe yesterday, so talking about the previous day's trading volume, so I guess that would be Monday, and the influx into ETH ETFs was something like slightly over 1 billion. The previous high was around 700 and some odd million. So you're talking about like a 50% increase off of the previous day high for influxes into ETFs. And of course, that's just going to be reflected right into the futures markets and in the spot markets. And so it's a wild time, and it came out of nowhere. I mean, I'm not much of a crypto trader, but I hear people been waiting for this for a very long time, and it sounds like it's finally come to fruition.
Yeah, just go back to our shows from March or April, and ETH was the biggest loser on our list for the year. It was number one to the downside, off 50% for the year, and now here it is, just resurging and putting up numbers too on the volume front. So wild stuff out here, listeners. Let's see if we can find anything else equally as wild. I don't think anything else will match that on the list today, but let's see what we can find. Number 9, we got the Ultra 10-year, 322,000 contracts. By the way, the rest of these are September with the exception of one. You can probably guess which one it is, listeners. It's our old pal, 3-month SOFR. Coming in number 8, SOFR likes to hang out in December for a variety of reasons. 346,000 contracts on the tape today for the number 8 spot. Number 7, we got our old pal, the NASDAQ E-mini. 366,000 contracts. Number 6, the 2-year, 109,000 contracts on the tape. Number 5, to the S&P we go, this time to the micro. Again, take all these micros with a grain of salt from a volume perspective, but we kind of have to include them because A, they're obviously attracting a lot of interest. B, just removing them all the time is annoying. And C, how do you kick out Ether micro? It's just wild to see that on the list. Number 5, S&P micro, 658,000 contracts. Number 4, to the 5-year we go, 782,000 contracts on the tape. Number 3, to the big dog E-mini, 794,000 contracts. Then number 2, back to microland. Usually the only contract that can really vie with the 10-year note for the top spot is the NASDAQ 100 micro, and that is the case again today. 949,000 contracts on the tape, but only good enough for number 2. That means the big dog once again holding down the throne. It is the 10-year note. 1.08 million contracts on the tape. All in all, not the most active of days. I usually like to use that barometer of costing you 300,000 contracts to break into the top 10 to show you maybe it's an active day or not. Obviously, we're below that today, Nick, but the ether sneaking in there is just absolutely wild. Anything else catching your eye in our list of the most actives today, sir?
So I can definitely attest to the micro NASDAQ, being the second in volume. Our customers who trade that product have really ramped up their volume recently. It's been noted. I think when we last were together, we kind of talked about how like the April tariffs had kind of spooked some of the retail traders out of the market, and like you were probably the volume that you were seeing was coming probably more from the institutional end. Well, I can tell you with great certainty that retail traders are back and they are trading micro NASDAQ. A lot of our algorithmic traders, retail algorithmic traders, have kind of turned their machines back on, if you will, and are trading micro NASDAQ with authority. So
good to hear that they are turning those machines back on. Yes, interesting stuff.
Mortimer would be happy.
Micro NASDAQ. So that's why the NASDAQ is always number 2 on our list. Your Tradier folks are just trading it up.
That's what
day
they do.
in, day out. Yeah, it's wild to see how much uptake there is in that contract. All right, listeners, we talked about trends for the week. We talked about the activity for the day. Let's look back a little bit farther for the year so far. Now more than halfway through the year. So we thought we had some definite trends for the year. One of them was that ETH was a dumpster fire, and no more of that. So these trends can change, listeners. That's what makes it interesting to watch them. Let's go to the dark side for the year right now, listeners. Year to date, number 5, we have our old pal wheat off 12.65%. Number 4, we're going out to, once again, cash settled butter off 14.75% for the number 4 spot. Number 3, it's hard red spring wheat. So number 3 off 15.88%. So we got both wheats coming in on the dark side. Makes sense this week. And number 2, our old pal Nat Gas, not having a great year. That said, it is summertime, so it's not usually the time of year where we expect Nat Gas to be explosive, pun intended. It's off a little over 20% for the year so far. And our number 1 loser for the year, still holding down that highly coveted number 1 spot, taking it over from ETH when ETH decided to move completely in the other direction. Number 1 with a bullet to the downside now is our old pal OJ off 45.1%. Speaking of turn those machines back on, good old FCOJ not looking good for the year here, Nick. Anything catching your eye in our year-to-date losers list, sir?
I don't know if anything particular catches my eye, but what I'm hearing is a theme of food products or consumables, and kind of which to me means that prices are probably getting cheaper for the consumer, and kind of interestingly, the market is pricing in now kind of a rate cut, which you kind of wouldn't expect, right? Like isn't I think I saw the Fed Watch tool is now predicting a quarter rate cut at the next meeting in September, and so it's kind of interesting to hear these staples going down in price. And then we're going to be potentially cutting rates. Kind of two things aren't resonating for me right now. What are your thoughts on that, Mark?
I've been saying for a while, I think the rate cut is madness. I think Powell's been trying to hold that line. The market's been rallying for years now on two things: on the magical power of AI and the belief that these rate cuts are coming. They have yet to materialize. We continue to rally. You could argue we priced in many more rate cuts than we've already seen so far. So yeah, I'm with you. I don't think we need to just all of a sudden start slashing rates. I mean, inflation it was not as bad as expected, but it was still bad. 2.7% is not a great number. So the notion that we need to immediately start cutting rates off this just to drive the stock market farther north, that's what we're doing. I don't know. Is the Fed really just in the business of being the Fed put, or are they actually there to do their job and try to manage inflation? So I don't know. We could debate Fed, and we have many times on this show. But yeah, and this is the rare time where I'm kind of in agreement with Powell. Maybe we need to pump the brakes on the desire for multiple rate cuts just to keep the stock market rolling. Let's keep on rolling. Let's go out to the upside, listeners, and you could probably guess what is dominating our list. And again, this is a new show, Nick. I don't think we've ever had a product, though, in the short history of this show, swing all the way from number one to the downside for the year to number one with the bullet to the upside to the year. That is just wild to me. So yeah, take a guess what is number one, listeners. But to the upside we go. Kicking it off let's go to number 5. It's feeder cattle. So a good year for the livestock, up 30% so far year to date. Number 4, the lone ag traditionally. I mean, obviously, feeder cattle is in the ags complex, but the lone actual ag product that's been in our upside movers for the year for a while now. It's soybean oil, up almost 31% for the year. That's number 4. Number 3, we got our old pal Bitcoin, both of them, the micro and the big future over there at CME, up nearly 40% for the year, 39.75%. And then coming in at number 2, we had a lot of precious metals dominating this list earlier in the year. In fact, if you went back a few months, you probably would have gold at the top of this list. You'd see silver in there. You see platinum, all these ones in there. Now all we have is platinum at number 2, listeners, up 44.4% for the year. And the big dog here, ETH, this is showing us up 106%. Like that number, take with a bit of a grain of salt here on the futures. Again, I think we talked about this on the show recently, the notion of the constant maturity in the futures versus the front month and how that can sometimes gum up the percentages. But either way you cut it, and you can look at a lot of other outlets. If you look at pure spot, ETH is still up well north of 40-odd%, close to 50% for the year. So it still is in that 1 to 2 range, even if you look at this at 106% and you say, maybe that's a little bit wild. But that said, Mr. Nick, a wild year to the upside. What is catching your eye out there, sir?
You know, it's been one of the things that's been interesting, and I know it's not on the top, but you mentioned platinum, right? Or was it palladium? Platinum. Sorry. And so the precious metals in general have held their strength in this rally, whereas like earlier during the tariff tantrum, if you will, gold and silver were really rallying through that market depression period or the sell-off. And now, as the market rallies, they're still holding their value, which is kind of interesting to me because, generally speaking, right, they've kind of been a hedge against market volatility and that sort of thing. So it's kind of impressive that they're holding their own. I definitely can attest that our customers are actively trading those products as well. But that's kind of something that's kind of stuck out to me.
Yeah, if you looked at our top 5 not too long ago, it was all precious metals. I mean, the narrative for the year was sell ETH and buy all the metals, and you were looking great. Your top 5 was pretty much all metals and maybe soybean oil or something else sneaking in there. So silver, gold, platinum, palladium, you're looking good on. Even copper was up there. Of course, the tariffs have come back, so that has kind of come back down the other side a little bit there. But still, it was a good year to be long metals. Still looking pretty good on the platinum front. Just a few others sneaking in there, including a little bit of crypto on our top movers for the year, listeners. Speaking of sneaking in there, you folks always like to sneak in with your questions. Get to some of them now. A little bit of the old futures free-for-all.
Ring the bell. It's time to take on all comers in an epic Q&A battle royale. All questions can enter, but none can leave without an answer. It's time for the Futures Free-for-All.
All right, everybody, welcome to the Futures Free-for-All. Our question this week comes from one of our pro members, actually, Mackenzie, our crypto head. Surprise, surprise, Nick, it's about ETH. Can you believe it?
I'm surprised.
Surprised. Shocked. There is listener interest in ETH. I cannot believe it. She wants to know, she says, can you believe this resurgence in Ethereum? Well, short answer, no, it's been wild. Is this causing activity in all the listed crypto or just ETH? Also, is this finally the resurgence we've been waiting for in ETH options? Well, a bunch to sink our teeth into there. First off, the activity is wild. We just mentioned micro ETH breaking into our top 10 on the show this week for the first time ever since we've been doing this show. So That's kind of wild to see. So that paper is impressive. If you want to crunch the numbers here for the other products, you asked, is everything putting up similar numbers? And no, and the micro ether, that I just pulled it out right before showtime. We're closing in on 300,000 contracts in that micro ether. The OI is only about a little bit shy of 150,000. So there's a lot of new paper going up in the micro ether. I'm looking at micro Bitcoin as well right now over there at CME, and they're doing respectable paper. 60, looks like 65,000 contracts or so. But again, a kind of a pale shadow of ether, because ether is just taking up all the oxygen in the room. By the way, the OI right now looks like in micro Bitcoin is around 36, 37,000. So doing more volume than their OI there as well. Just not quite as explosive as micro ether. I didn't even realize this. I forgot this, Nick. There also is a micro XRP at the CME, which is wild to me for a product that hung out at 52 cents for the better part of 5 years, half a decade. They need a micro future on it, but nonetheless, they do. It's putting up about 4,500 contracts so far out there today. So again, not bad. XRP is around $3. So do we really need a future? But I guess, you can say the same thing about nat gas, right? So interesting stuff. So micro XRP putting up a little bit of numbers. I don't know, it's 4,500 if that's good or bad to you, Mackenzie, but it definitely does seem like ETH is dominating all the volume flow over there at CME. The other part of your question here you want to know about, is it also on the options? Normally I'd say that for TWIFO, This Week in Futures options, but we're talking here. You folks can see these answers for yourselves. It's all free. Just go to cmegroup.com/TWIFO, TWIFO. That is the name of our This Week in Futures options show that we do with the folks over there at CME. And you can see all this data for yourselves completely for free. So if you ever have a question about, hey, is a particular options complex lighting it up this week, you can go see it for yourselves, all for free, all running, all live, all the time. So you can check in. And if you did that right now, you'd see that ETH is putting up, looks like about 700 contracts, which again, that's the big ETH. That's not the micro out here. The big ETH is putting up 700. The micro is putting up about 6,500 contracts. Again, may not sound like a lot, and it's not a ton, but most weeks you're challenged to find 100 contracts in big ETH, and you're challenged to find, maybe 1,000 in micro ETH. So it is doing respectable paper, even though, Nick, it does seem like the lion's share of the interest is boiling in on those micro ether futures, sir. Is that your takeaway as well?
Yeah, that is my takeaway. But that's mostly what we see. The micro Bitcoin, the micro ETH, as far as the crypto futures. Like I told you earlier, we actually have a customer who's been trading. He might be the XRP volume because he has been trading up a storm. In fact, I think back the last week of July, Solana and XRP micros traded around 15,000 contracts, which again, not huge, but 3x what they're traded today. So there has been interest, there has been activity. Micro products are great for spot crypto traders, right? Like a lot of retail crypto traders aren't, don't have 120 grand to throw at a Bitcoin, but they can afford to trade a micro Bitcoin future. So makes sense to me.
Yeah, it's fun stuff. I like to see these products take off. We kind of stopped talking about them on our TWIFO shows because there really was no volume in any of these products. But hopefully this ETH resurgence, maybe it will be, as she puts it in her question. Maybe this will finally be the resurgence we've been waiting for, not just in ETH options, but in the entire crypto complex over there at CME. If you like listed crypto, you don't want to deal with spot, or you like the notion of having a counterparty and maybe some regulation over it, then you want those CME products to do well. It's good for everybody. So hopefully this is a sign of things to come, Mackenzie. All right, Mr. Nick, you did it. You survived another sojourn through the world of futures, this time coming back across the pond to focus on the U.S. Let those Europeans stew for a little bit. They got their own stuff going on. But Nick, good job here. Before we roll out of here on the show, if there's any products that we didn't really get to today on the show that you'd like to mention, or you maybe some thoughts or ideas or setups you're seeing in the market that you want to mention to the listeners, now is the time, sir. The floor is yours.
Well, I would just kind of not to. I know you have a whole. This show feels like it's dedicated to crypto, but I think there's some opportunity, especially as the volume starts picking up in these other products like Solana and XRP. Might be an opportunity for folks to take advantage of a disconnect in the marketplace. like I said, tread lightly. The liquidity is still not 100% there, but there is opportunity. Like I said, people are starting to trade these, and it gives you a new way to get exposure to those two products and mitigate your counterparty risk that you spoke about and other things. So that would be my parting words, I guess.
And if folks want to check out some of this action you got cooking over there at Tradier, where should they go? What should they do?
If you just go to Tradier.com, you can open an account there. You can reach out to us at service at Tradier Futures or service at Tradier Brokerage, whichever you prefer. And our amazing team can help you get an account opened up, answer all your questions. We've got folks with tons of trading experience and to support you and help you get going. So we'd love to earn your business and give us a check out.
There you go. Check them out. Tradier, TRADIER.com. Listeners, is the place to go to kick the tires and light the fires. That's going to do it for us on the Futures Rundown today. Not going to do it for us on the network, of course. We'll be back after the closing bell to break down all the activity that's lighting up the options market on our newest addition to the network, the Hot Options Report. So stay tuned for that. Then back with our usual array of content. If you like this show, you should be listening to This Week in Futures Options. That records every Thursday, of course, at 1:30 p.m. Central. Of course, the Option Block coming tomorrow with our buddy, the Flow Master from SIBO. That'll be there as well. Friday, of course, Volatility Views will be joined by our good buddy, hasn't been on in a while, Mr. Ewan Sinclair, to talk some vol, so that should be fun. And then after that, one final time for you pro folks, we dive deep into some weird and wild activity on options oddities. If you want to check that out for yourselves, theoptionsinsider.com/pro is the place to go to learn more. Then we're back again next week, all the way through to next Wednesday. Another episode of the Futures Rundown. Stay safe out there, everybody.
You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network, the home of the Options Podcast. For more quality options programs, visit theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app available in the iTunes and Google Play stores. Select programs are also available via live stream at mixlr.com/options-insider. That's mixlr.com/options-insider. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, stocktwits.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions@theoptionsinsider.com.